How are you doing? All right, so we need to have a little conversation about something that we kind of touched on the channel on the 9th of July on a live stream. This is going to be an update on where we are currently because I've been tagged in a couple of articles that progressed the conversation from the 9th of July. And the conversation was around the fact that we are going to see some tax increases. It's inevitable that we are going to see some tax increases. And if you recall, this whole election campaign was run on the promise that there would be no tax increases on income tax, on national insurance contributions. I think they threw VAT in there as well, and corporation tax. But that isn't sustainable. And that's something that I said on July the 9th. And I also said that, what will happen is that the new Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will get into the office, look at the books, and she will position things as being so bad that she has no choice but to increase taxes. And just to jerk your memory, if you were paying attention, you did tune into that live stream. This is what I said on the 9th of July. Let's have a little listen.
Now, what I expect to happen is this, and I could be wrong. I could be absolutely wrong. What I think will happen is she's had a look at the books. She can see how bad it is. What will happen is there'll probably be an autumn budget. And that's where we're going to hear the bad news that, things were way worse than we ever thought they were going to be or what was expected. And therefore, we have to U-turn on this, and this, and this.
So that was what I said on July 9th, okay? And what I want to do in this video is just talk a little bit about some of the articles that have been circulating in The Guardian and the Financial Times over the past couple of days around what is coming on Monday, the announcement that they're going to make on Monday. And the conversations and how this has been positioned is to be expected. It's blaming it on the previous government, saying that we have no choice but to do this if we need to fix it, which is absolutely fine. But I think that this is the conversation that we all should have had when they were campaigning in the general election. And let's not talk about whether our system is broken or not, but it feels as though we weren't given the opportunity to have an honest conversation about where we are in this country and what needs to be done. That's my take. You may disagree. Let me know in the comment section down below. But let me just share with you this article right now, which is in The Guardian. And this outlines pretty starkly the challenge that we're facing as a nation as a whole. All right. So this is in The Guardian right now. Here's the headline. Rachel Reeves expected to reveal a £20 billion shortfall in public finances. And I'm just going to go down here to the very opening of this article. So Rachel Reeves is expected to reveal a $20 billion hole in government spending for essential public services on Monday, paving the way for potential tax rises in the autumn budget. Labour sources say the blame lay with the Tory government, describing it as a shocking inheritance and accusing former Chancellor of presiding over a black hole and still campaigning for tax cuts. Now, they were all campaigning and saying that actually we're not going to raise taxes, okay? And they made the commitment not to increase national insurance contributions. So if you remember, over the course of the two budgets in 2023, Jeremy Hunt reduced national insurance contribution, the tax there, so the average household had £900 in their pocket. It looks like that might be reversed, and it looks like we might even see some increases to national insurance contributions, maybe income tax, and those are the areas where they said they were not going to raise taxes. If you dialed into the live on July the 9th, I kind of explained where the government money comes from. Where do they get their revenue from? And the truth is that 42% of tax revenue comprises of income tax and national insurance contributions. And so it's mind-boggling to me, and it will be mind-boggling to anyone who just understands how finances work, how you can say and campaign that there will be no tax rises when 42% of your income tax revenue comes from income tax and national insurance contributions. When you throw in VAT, it goes up to something like 52, 54%. It's the largest part of government spending. And when you look at the pie chart, what you'll find is that actually all the other areas where you could generate tax from, so business tax and all these other areas, it pales in comparison to income tax, national insurance contributions, and VAT. And so I'm not surprised that we now find ourselves in this position where she's had a look at the books and she's gone, well, there's a £20 billion public tax, public, I don't know, sinkhole, let's call it sinkhole. Can't get my words in today. And now looking at how do we raise money? Well, taxation is obviously one of the first things that you're going to look at. Now, it is worthwhile just going down here to the rest of the article. Now, economists have predicted that Rees will kitchen sink the bad news about the economy in an expected execration of the previous government's record. The review is likely to conclude that existing spending plans are unsustainable and would require substantial cuts to public services, a position that economists had highlighted repeatedly before the election. And I spoke about this on July the 9th. The fact that if you look at the guys from the IFS, which is the Institute for Fiscal Studies, they are an independent body that looks at government spending, borrowing, and talks about the impact of policy on business and individuals. And throughout, they were saying that the government had this conspiracy of silence where they were not talking about the factors, the things that we should have been speaking about in the election cycle, effectively accusing all of the parties of lying, saying that their plans were all fully costed. Remember, they all said our plans in our manifestos are fully costed. If that is the case, why now is there the need to potentially go back on the promises that you made? And these are the things that I think we missed in the election cycle that are now coming to the forefront that as a nation we're going to have to face because we're not being told the truth. They weren't honest with us. They just weren't honest with us. And now we have to pay as citizens to try and fix this problem. Now it says here, presenting her Treasury audit to the Commons on Monday, the Chancellor is expected to say her review has revealed state and privatized services at risk of collapse under current spending plans. I don't think that is a surprise. We know that there's been a lot of wastage and people will point fingers at so many different things. We know for a fact that public spending as it currently is completely unsustainable at the levels that they are. And I've made a number of vehicles talking about the role that taxation has to play when it comes to public services and trying to fund. I mean, look, one of the great things that Labour introduced was the fact that they would reintroduce or at least take away the exemption on VAT for private school fees. And that was designed to raise funds to put more teachers in our classrooms, which is sorely needed right now. But that's just teachers. We need to think about the NHS. We need to think about police. We need to think about fire services. Our public sector at the moment is pretty dire in terms of the service levels that we have. It feels like things are crumbling. You know, if you look back over the last couple of years, how many issues have been highlighted in terms of how things are run in this country? And so spending is a key proponent to try and bring things back to where they need to be. I want to come back here and I will link this article so you can read this entire thing. I've just picked out some really salient points that I think are important for this conversation. Tax raising options on offer to Reeves include generating a £3 billion a year, according to the IFS, which is the Institute of Fiscal Studies, by limiting inheritance tax relief on agriculture and business assets. Now, that's inheritance tax, but that's on sale of, if, for example, a farm is being transferred to the next generation, typically there's relief. And you've got to remember that a lot of farmers specifically may not be cash rich. So how they do this, I don't know, but it's going to raise money. That may be music to people's ears, especially when you start talking about the wealth divide in this country. So maybe a tick for some, maybe not for others. But here is where I feel there is going to be a big issue and one that is going to be hugely unpopular. Bringing pension pots within inheritance tax and removing the capital gains uplift on inherited assets. I want to pay attention to the pensions piece. Bringing pension pots into inheritance tax. Now, in financial planning, what has always been the case so far is that you can pass your pension down to your beneficiaries free of tax if you die before the age of 75. And after 75, whoever inherits that pension pot, basically pays tax at their nominal rate. If they're basic rate taxpayer, they pay 20%. If they're additional rate taxpayer, or higher rate taxpayer, I should say, they then pay 40%, right? That has always been the case. Bringing pensions into the inheritance tax regime, either by taking that away, saying, look, you can't pass on your pension to your loved ones tax-free before a certain age, is going to be hugely unpopular. We don't have that many areas left where people can leave something to their kids after working a lifetime to accumulate. We don't have many bastions of those environments anymore. And so taking this away is going to be hugely controversial, especially considering the pension problems that we've been speaking about here on the channel now for some time. The fact that they're going to be debating whether or not they should means test the state pension. So at some point now, we're going to get to the point where there may be no state pension for some people who have been able to accumulate a decent enough pension pot. Then yet alone, not will they get access to the state pension if they have their way. Then if there's anything left in that pension, then they want to pass it down to daughter, son, grandkids, whoever it might be, to say that there will be inheritance tax on that. Again, I mean, it will be hugely controversial. But it says here, but targeting of inheritance assets or pension savings in particular is extremely contentious. Yeah, no shit. Sorry for my language, but no shit, Sherlock, and is likely to draw heavy criticism from the Conservatives. This is going to be a big debate. Now, one thing I do also want to share with you is this, because this also talks about this same subject. Chancellor Rachel Reeves may have to raise borrowing by £22 billion. So there's a shortfall in public finances of 20 billion. If they do this whole thing with inheritance tax, that's going to raise 3 billion. There's still a 19 billion pound hole there. So borrowing more money, going to the markets is going to be important. And another thing that comes into this equation here is what they've just mentioned here. You know, giving health and education workers a 5.5% pay rise. MPs get a pay rise. Why shouldn't public service individuals get a pay rise? You know, the NHS and doctors are fighting for this at the moment. They're saying that there's no money there. It has to be funded somewhere. More importantly, you have to give the people who work in our public services the ability to be able to live life without feeling as though they need to use food banks. So the fact that you have critical service individuals in this country, police officers, nurses, going to food banks is an absolute disgrace. And we can talk about so many other things. And I'm sure comment section is going to be full of, you know, the immigration problem and all this kind of stuff. We need to fix this. We really, really do. Here's another piece of an article which I thought was very, very interesting. I'll share with you. And this is someone saying Reeves would be right to reverse Tory tax cuts. And he's talking specifically about national insurance contributions here. So, like I said at the beginning of this, we may see that gets reversed. We may see an increase in national insurance contributions in terms of the tax that you pay. We may see income tax go up. We're going to see taxes go up in some way, shape, or form. I can tell you that right now. But we're not going to find out until the autumn budget. So all ears on Monday. All ears on Monday. I'm going to be out shooting some stuff, but I'll provide an update once I've been able to kind of digest that information. We can delve into what that basically means. But what I want from you guys is tell me how you feel about this right now in the comment section. Because for me, whilst I expected it, I don't think this type of stuff should ever be sprung on a population who has gone out to vote. We are adults. We can understand that the problem that the country faces is a big one. I think as adults, we can have that conversation. I just wish the politicians would be honest and actually have these conversations with us like we're adults and not, I guess, pettifog and try to ignore the big issue as though we can't handle it. And it's typical politician behavior. They say what they need to say to get into office. And when they get in there, they do something completely different to what they promised they were going to do. And it just asks the question, how do you have faith in politicians and our political system? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, because honestly, at this point, I think there's going to be a huge shock to the system. I think things are going to get so much harder for families who are already squeezed with the cost of living crisis. Energy prices are set to go up again in the winter. It's going to be a really, really difficult time. And I don't think that a lot of people are prepared for it. And I'm going to say the same thing that I said on July the 9th. And I've been saying on this channel now for the past almost 2 years, going through this cost of living crisis. Financial management right now is really, really important. Understanding how you're going to manage your finances is absolutely crucial. How do you put financial plans in place? How do you work towards your financial goals in a way that is structured, that takes into account your finances and how you can actually structure your money to make those things happen? Because nobody is coming to save you. You've got to do what you've got to do. I've got a financial I've got a one-page financial plan, which I've literally just designed. I'll pop a link to it down below. Go grab it. I'll give you a full tutorial on how to actually use it as well. But you need to spend the time to really figure out what you're going to do from a financial point of view. I've said a number of times that sometimes, yes, you can't budget because there's only so much you can cut. Sometimes you're going to have to pretty much focus on how you're going to earn more money. And that may mean side hustles, unfortunately. That may mean putting your CV out there, seeing if you can get a pay rise by moving jobs. I know it's tight right now, but you've got to do what you've got to do. And if you can't start with the basics, the fundamental stuff that matters first, which is everything that's in the realm of your control, money coming in, what you're spending money on, it's going to be really, really tough. And I don't have the answers for all of it. I just don't. I just understand the things that have transformed my finances from when I was homeless to struggling with debt to where I am right now. And that's the stuff that I share on this channel. And that's the stuff that I've shared in my book. And that's everything that I do when it comes to coaching one-on-one with people. I don't really know the answer to this. When it comes to politics and what the government need to do, we have no control over it. They lie, they get into office, they do what they feel is necessary. They've got a 5-year term, but is 5 years really enough to fix this issue? Is it enough to fix this problem? You know, if Labour gets this first 5 years, they don't get another 5 years, you could argue they're not going to have continuation, because guess what? The Tories will always oppose them on some of the things that they were doing. If they get back in, or another party gets back in, then it's going to be them continuing with their vision, which may be different to the vision of Labour right now, which is why this whole political system is just so messed up. Politicians should work together. I don't know. I feel like I'm venting now, but I'm sure you feel as frustrated as I feel, because watching this is it's just so annoying. It's really annoying. And I don't know, fingers crossed, that's not even a solution. Let me know what you think in the comments. Cheers.